Here we go. Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Adam. Welcome to part 2 of this film little... I don't know what it is really, but in the previous video I talked about why films mean so much to me, the importance of films, and in this video I'm going to talk about which film format is my favorite and preferred version and why. Well, my preferred film format to watch films on is the format that, for me, I believe, gets me as close to the 35mm cinema experience as possible. Because I have some great fond memories of going to the cinema, and there's just something about 35mm, you know, as opposed to, say, digital projection. There's something more connecting with that medium, and I can't explain it. I don't know what it is, but when I go to the cinema these days and it's digital projection, I still enjoy the film. It's still an experience. I still feel the film, but I'm not as connected to it. These days, films are almost disposable and not the kind of grand experience when you went in the past and watched on 35mm or 70mm. They're a bit more diluted, I feel, now. Now, again, this is my opinion. People might, you know, in the comments say I'm wrong or have a difference of opinion, and that's fine. But my opinion is films have become very dilutable and disposable, especially with the advent of digital streaming like Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon, yada yada yada. You know, it's like there's so much at our fingertips, and you just watch, throw away, and don't really get to revel in it and sort of connect with it like we did when we went to, say, the cinema, and then we had it on a home medium like VHS, or if some people were fortunate to have laserdiscs back then, or even maybe DVDs. I don't know. But there was something more connective. Now, I do have a theory why, but I could be totally wrong. But for me, I have a preference towards laserdiscs. It's an analog format. It is, well, it's analog and digital, but the film itself is an analog signal on that disc. DVDs, on the other hand, which is kind of its competitor, which only had a slight resolution difference, but were a cleaner signal, is a digital encode on the disc. It's in a format, you know, but it's still digitally put onto that disc, and that's kind of where you get the blockiness sometimes if it's been poorly encoded. And like when they first came out, they were flipper discs, but DVDs are digital. Laserdiscs, you don't suffer from resolution, blockiness, pixelation. You don't suffer from bit rates. There's none of that. It's an analog, just like a 35mm reel doesn't really have kind of like a resolution attached to it with a bit rate in order to play it. Whereas DVDs, Blu-rays, and 4Ks need to have a decent amount of bit rate to according to the resolution, and then whatever you watch it on is going to make a difference if you're scaling up beyond that. Like 4K TVs, watching a DVD on, you've got to have a really good player that's going to overscale or upscale that image to make it still look good. Because if you take that same film and go put it on a, say, like a smaller TV or a CRT TV, it's actually going to look better because it's not being upscaled now. You're not getting all the blockiness. It actually looks pretty good and very filmic, I must say. But DVD and Laserdisc really had the same sort of way it was made in terms of 480i interlaced or 576 progressive, although Laserdisc was a bit more restricted, I believe, to 425 and 525 progressive. So there was only between 50 and 100 lines difference between Laserdisc and DVD. So the earlier discs of DVD, I have found out, were literally from the same master as a Laserdisc. So in what you're getting is a cleaner signal of that film. There's no noise really inherent on a DVD as heavy as it is on an analog Laserdisc. Slight resolution bump, and that's it. Like, that's why DVDs look a little bit better. People will swear by them, but it's come from the same master. So actually what you're getting is pixelation and a digital encode introduced, and a load of new problems now, like a resolution to worry about in terms of having enough bits in that resolution to have a complete smooth image. Obviously, when Blu-rays came out, they had bigger capacity discs. They could bump up that bit rate, and now you can get, and the resolution bump, and get really beautiful looking images. And of course, with 4K and HDR, you're able to get that real color depth that a film wouldn't have had on DVD, or even perhaps Laserdisc maybe. But my preferred film format is Laserdisc, and I honestly think they're so cool. They are an analog format with a digital audio and ability, but they don't come with the issues of DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K doesn't. Blu-ray and 4K I wouldn't say have blockiness issues, but if you scale it up enough, it does. But this is an analog signal, so it's scalable to any degree, really. You can blow this up on a screen quite large and not actually see that much artifact, or you'll see no pixelation, no blockiness. But you put a DVD up, and the bigger it gets, the blockier it gets, and the colors start to fade the wider it's stretched out. That doesn't happen on a Laserdisc. And in all honesty, the covers are so cool. Look at this inside, it's just so much cooler, this is a simple release version, I'd say, of a Laserdisc. The size of that, they can be quite complicated. They can be box sets, huge box sets that come with books and CDs, and can be quite thick, and they're very weighty. You open this up, if we go to open this one up, look at this artwork here. This is, you wouldn't get this on a DVD or a Blu-ray. Look at the size of it. It's the size of a record, a 12-inch record. The artwork is just as beautiful, and inside you usually have the behind the scenes written out about how they made the film or something like that. But the discs themselves, no joke, are huge. They are the size of a vinyl record. They're massive. I've got nowhere to put this that's safe, so I'm gonna have to balance it here because I want to show you the size of this disc. It is huge. Now, if there's a big cry out for it, I will do a video more in depth about Laserdiscs and talk all about this format till the cows come home. But this is, I didn't want the video that I was doing to be too long, so I kind of cut it in part 1 and part 2. So I do like Laserdiscs, and I start collecting Laserdiscs, but I prefer to watch them on this because here's why. Let's take Forrest Gump as an example. Let me put this Jaws back. Forrest Gump, this film came out in 1994, hit the cinemas in 35mm, and then was released on VHS and Laserdisc, but DVD hadn't come out yet. So the master for this, for both the Laserdisc version and the VHS version, come from the same telecined master. So you take the 35mm negative, the 35mm either print or the negative. You run it through a intermediate processing and create a probably, if it says digitally processed, it would have been a digital master. In the early 90s, they always scanned at 2K and created a digital master, and that's when you usually find on these things digitally mastered or encoded or something like that. I don't actually see that on here, so it probably wasn't done as a digital, but it certainly was done on a tape, a 2-inch thick tape that can hold quite a lot of resolution, and then it would be transcoded down to VHS, to Laserdisc. Now, this was done back in 1994, straight after the film's launch. The prints are pristine, they're fresh. The copy on this Laserdisc is from 1994 or 1995, when the print was fresh and struck just, off the cinema run, either made from the negative itself or made from a 35mm print that had been mastered and processed through a digital intermediate process. So they would scale it down, you know, and then put it on here at like whatever 525 progressive or whatever it turns out to be, and on VHS 240. Obviously when it was time to make the DVD, they'd go back to that same master, which had been maybe lying around for a few years, and then create the DVD. So the DVD would be struck from the same copy as this, just with a cleaner signal, really. That's all it is. But now introducing digital pixelation, you know, that this doesn't have. This holds no digital pixelation whatsoever. And because it's an analog signal, it doesn't have like it has a frame rate attached to it, or frames attached to it, but not like DVD does. You know, DVDs, when you're watching it, you know, I think they're encoded at something like 24 frames per second on the disc, or 30 frames per second. It's 29.95 or something, and 30. So there has to be some telecin work there to take a 24 frame rate, you know, 35mm reel and transcode it now into a 29.98 or a 30, you know, for the European market, and match it to a 50 hertz signal and a 60 hertz signal for the Americans. So basically there's a lot of digitary pokery having to happen to make that DVD possible. Now people will say DVDs look better, but all it is they're cleaner. They're just less noise. That's it. They're not actually any better, other than that sort of less noise. There's more noise on these because they're analog, so there's more I don't know what would be the exposure to the elements of the atmosphere, you know, inherent, trapped within this. And then of course playing it through another device adds a bit more noise, and so by the time you get it, it's really degraded. And probably what people fall in love with these things is the degradation of the noise, is probably what they really like. But anyway, so then when it comes to Blu-ray, I don't have any Blu-rays to hand, but oh, I do. Here we go. I'll use this as an example. Pretend this is Forrest Gump. So now it comes time to do the Blu-ray, and we're in the year, what, let's say 2009, 2010, we'll say 2010. 14 years after the film was made comes the Blu-ray. So what do? They can either go back to that 2K master, because it is Blu-ray, it only needs 1080p scaling on to put on here, so they could go back to that master and just use that, run it through a new maybe color grade, you know, matching what the director wanted, and just whack that on. That would be fine. Or they could go back to the original 35mm elements that have been sitting in a vault somewhere for the past 14 years collecting dust. They can scan them into a computer, make a new digital intermediate, and put that on the Blu-ray, which probably would have a bit more dust on it, you know, depending on the quality of that other digital intermediate that had been sitting around since 1994 as well. Either way, either by using a rescan 35mm print or the original negative that's been lying around collecting dust, that you've then got to scrub and add denoising to, so you don't really see it. You've got to process the image a lot more to now put it on Blu-ray. The medium, this is sealed, so I'm wondering if it's loose inside. The medium, basically, that is now 14 years later on coming out. Now, I'm not saying that in 2014 Forrest Gump hit Blu-ray. I don't really know the date off the hand when Forrest Gump hit Blu-ray. This is just a pure example of the difference between bringing a film out in the home media market with an acceptable resolution to be projected on. I'm in completely the wrong spot here. In a completely acceptable resolution for projection, and to have a very nice picture, so you're plugging it up through the right devices, as opposed to this scrubbed image now that has to be cleaned and processed in order to get it pristine looking. And like, Is it the same as what you remember in the cinema? Some say yes, some say no. Either way, it's also got less noise on than this one. So, of course, the image is going to look better. Believe it or not, you can sit here and watch a DVD projected up on the wall with the right sort of, projector and player, and still have a very, pleasant looking image compared to, say, like a Blu-ray or 4K. Because the format that is just a transport medium. My favorite transport medium is laserdisc. I don't know if I'll put this out. So there we go. That's my favorite format to view films on. If you want me to do a bit more of an in-depth dive, because I didn't really talk about this one, let me know and I will do that. But thank you for watching. Take care and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.